Okay, good morning, everybody. I think it is time to start. Thank you, first of all, for attending this policy workshop on decarbonization of district heating and cooling networks, which, as you know, will be followed by half an hour roundtable where I hope most of the, or a large part of the interesting contents of this workshop will happen. This workshop is co-organized by several projects, which I will be shortly introducing. But first of all, I would like to have a look at the program. So the agenda foresees a short introduction by myself, then very short introductions on the five projects which somewhat participated and contributed to this workshop. It will be a very short presentation, I swear, so because we want to devote most of the time to the policy part. And then we will have three main speeches by Mr. Madis Laniste from DG Ener, so he's policy officer, by Andras Takas from Euroheat and Power, policy advisor, and by Roberto Fedrezzi from Eurec Research, who will be presenting and unveiling the policy paper we have prepared. And after that, we will have, as said, a short roundtable discussion. A few words about myself. I'm, first of all, Marco Calderoni. I'm a senior project manager and technical manager at R2M Solution. We are experts on EU projects. My main expertise is on renewable heating and cooling. And I'm currently also the chairman of the Renewable Heating and Cooling ATIP, which is, as some of you may know, putting together the main renewable heating and cooling technologies currently on the market and on the research side. And with this, I would like to leave the floor to Juan Gutierrez to present the Bio-FlexGen project.
Thank you, Marco. Good morning, everyone. First of all, my name is Juan Gutierrez Herrera. I'm a PhD student from University Commissions in Spain. And I'm part of the Bio-FlexGen project, so I'm going to present very briefly the most important insights of and highlights of the project. So Bio-FlexGen is a multidisciplinary team of 14 partners and 5 European countries, together with Spain, Finland, Sweden, Germany, and Hungary. We have a multi-stakeholder approach. So we have research centers and universities involved, as well as technology providers. The project duration is of 3 years, and we have an overall budget of 6 million euros. We have 2 development sites in Sweden and 1 in Berlin. The highlights of Bio-FlexGen: we develop a cutting-edge technology which is called BTC, which stands for biomass-fired top cycle, which is basically a biomass-fired CHP, which is highly efficient and can provide 2 to 3 times more electricity than conventional cycle plants. So the BTC technology produces power from biomass twice as efficiently as traditional steam cycle technologies, and it also provides heat for district heating and for industrial users. And the high efficiency is achieved by gasifying biomass with a high-pressure gas turbine process and massive steam injection. So the goal is to achieve a 50% electrical efficiency from biomass by the year 2030. And also operating costs are cut almost by half, and this results in a profitable plant that generates renewable power and heat on demand for industry and district heating. Okay, so thank you very much, and I leave the word to the next presenter.
Thank you, Juan. Congratulations for being short enough and precise. So the next project to be presented is HYPERGRYD. HYPERGRYD is, by the way, the project who is somewhat leading the organization of the workshop, whereas REWARDHeat is leading the issuing of the policy paper. So David Verets from ARC in Barcelona, please. floor is yours.
Thank you, Marco, for the introduction. I will try to be as quick as possible. My name is David Perez. I'm a senior project manager at RBCN. It's an engineering company in Barcelona in Spain. So what is HYPERGRYD? HYPERGRYD is hybrid coupled networks for thermal electric integrated smart energy districts. What is our main goal in this project? Our main goal is to advance the state-of-the-art of district heating network from the third generation to a fourth, fifth district heating networks. And of course, the integration of all these networks to the rest of the energy vectors in the system. We are a project that started in October 2021 and will be finished next March. We are around 19 partners from 7 different countries in which we have 4 living labs. That is how we call the demos or projects. Our living labs are in Keso in Poland, in Sonneplatz in Austria, in MB Park in Torino, and in Bolzano, Italy. So what is a little bit about HYPERGRYD? We are developing a system that develops both hardware and software technologies in a way that we have the whole value chain of the process development of a district heating network. In this case, we study from renewable energy sources, thermal energy storage, cogeneration from other energy vectors like gas, electricity, or thermal. And we work with biomass boilers, with power plants, and so on. In the project, we developed 3 core technologies, one based on a coupling and a scalar heat pump with short-term PCM storage. We work with a thermochemical storage based on surgeon technology. And we develop a small-scale CHP for the operation of the district heating. Software-wise, we try to go to the whole value chain of a district heating. So we go from tools for the designing of the district itself to the simulation and operation through a digital twin of the district heating in a way that we can optimize the operational parameters of the latter one from a techno and economic point of view. And in short words, I think that this is the idea of HYPERGRYD project.
Very good. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Marco.
Clear and short as well. Next is Martin Strolini presenting the REWARDHeat project. Please, Martin.
Yes, thank you, Marco. So my name is Martin Strolini. I'm the innovation manager at REWARDHeat Power, and I represent REWARDHeat. So just quickly about the challenge. So as you know, 50% of the energy demand in the European Union is for heating and cooling, and around 70% of European population lives in cities. However, these cities are still energy inefficient, and there's a lot of waste heat in these cities, which is being rejected into the air or the atmosphere, and which could cover quite a big chunk of this energy demand, which we have in Europe. This is where REWARDHeat comes into the game. So basically, what we try to do in REWARDHeat is to demonstrate a new generation of low temperature district heating and cooling networks, which can recover this waste heat, which is available in urban areas. And we also try to encourage a shift from heat as a commodity to heat as a service. As you can see, we have 8 different demo sites spread around Europe. So now just quickly about the main results of the project. So first of all, we will demonstrate cost-effective solutions for district heating systems, which can cover their demand by waste heat and renewable sources. We are also looking into assessment and characterization ways for waste heat and renewables at urban level. We are integrating successfully multiple urban excess heat and renewable heat sources. We also develop innovative technologies, including heat pumps, excess heat recovery technologies, or thermal storage in the networks. We are also looking into digital solutions to optimize the management of these networks. And on the more soft side, we are investigating new financing and investment schemes in district heating and cooling. And finally, we are also working on regulation and policy recommendations, which is also the objective of this webinar. And that would be all from my side.
Thank you, Martin. Great. So the fourth and second last project co-organizing this workshop is WeDistrict, and it will be presented by Carola Bosio. Please, Carola.
Yeah, thanks, Marco. Hi, it's Carola Bosio from Artram Solution. I'm the exploitation manager in WeDistrict. So WeDistrict, it's a project that it's almost at the end, received funding from Horizon 2020 program, and it is almost a 15 euro million, it has a budget of 15 million euro. The project has been run by these 20 partners, coordinated by Acciona, and the focus of the project is mainly to demonstrate the integration of several improved renewable energy technologies to decarbonize district heating and cooling networks, and the project developed 3 real-scale plants in Sweden, Spain, and Romania. Very briefly, you can see that one of the demo sites is in the University of Cordoba, is about a newly developed district heating and cooling network integrating 3 different concentrated solar collectors technologies, 2 different solar cooling technologies, and thermal storage like molten salt storage systems, and high efficiency, low emission biomass boiler. The second demo site is in Romania. This time is a retrofitting of an inefficient district heating section in the University of Bucharest. And here the technologies involved are both photovoltaic and solar thermal panels coupled with the geothermal heat pumps to cover the heating demand. The third demo site was in Sweden, in Luleå, and here the concept is focused on the recovery of waste heat from in existing data centers of the university. And the very innovative factor in this demo site is the use of fuel cell technologies fed by biogas. The last result of the WeDistrict that will remain available also in our website is a tool. It's a platform where the user every kind of users can simulate the integration of different renewable energy technologies to feed district heating and cooling networks. So the platform gives as an output a set of performance indicator to demonstrate the running of the system that you configured. Thanks a lot for the attention.
Thank you, Carola. I think REWARDHeat and WeDistrict are about to close right after summer, so those are the 2 projects with more mature results. And last but not least, SENERGY NETS presented by the coordinator Renato Luisi. Please, Renato, floor is yours.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Marco. So, I'm Renato Luisi, and I am the project coordinator of the SENERGY NETS project. For reason of time, I will just go through the project presentation and finally to the target of the project, which is to optimize all right. Sorry, there is some delay in the slide, but there should be now working. Yes. So the target of the project is to optimize the district heating and cooling distribution through multi-energy system models, through the enhancement of the flexibility of the district heating and cooling, thanks to the sector coupling for services to DSO and TCO, distribution and transmission system operator. What you can see here is finally the target of our project, which is finally our plan is to decarbonize. I don't know why which is to decarbonize the energy sector. And of course, you can imagine there are different ways, but the 2 main pillars on which we are trying to focus is finally to enhance the amount of renewable energy sources that we are using for satisfying the heat demand through the district heating and cooling distribution. And finally, thanks to our enhanced flexibility, our goal is also to to increase the energy efficiency of the system through this modeling, and in the end, also thanks to the to newer technologies. Well, our goal is to finally decrease the energy demand. As you can see here in the consortium, we are 19 partners. What is important is to see that we are spread about around 8 European countries, which give us a very good, let's say, overlook around different policies, different frameworks, and also through the modeling, it is possible to model different situation with different inputs. And another added value of this project, as you can see here, is the presence in the consortium of 2 DSO, which are the Electro Lubiana and Unareti in Italy. On top of that, we have also in our advisory board Enedis, which is the DSO, a French DSO. And why I'm focusing on those 3 countries, because finally we have 3 demonstrator pilot projects. One is in Milan, one is in the city of Ljubljana, and the third one is in the city of Paris. Of course, as I said, all of them are a bit different between them. And on top of that, we have also the possibility to study 2 additional case studies. One is in the city of Cordoba, and another one is in the city of Vászorás. Here for you, I just try to represent a bit all the different technologies that are present and are developed in our model through Synergy Nets, or that will be developed also, let's say, in the coming months and here, and with the goal indeed through these digital twins that we are developing to represent real case studies and then finally apply to the real world. So I am done for the presentation.
Thank you, Renato.
If you have questions for later,
yeah, the questions.
I'm
going to explain the policy of this webinar about questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I see we're through with the project presentations. Thanks everybody for waiting. I know that presenting projects can sometimes be not so interesting, but we thought it makes sense that you know which kind of technologies we are looking at, or we were looking at as we started writing the policy paper. Now, to dive a bit into the topic also from the technical perspective, before I leave the floor to the first of our main speakers, let me just throw on the table some thoughts about district heating, both from the technical and from the policy perspective. So first of all, most of our projects are looking into advanced generations, district heating and cooling systems. You know, we're talking about first generation up to or fifth generation. As you, let's say, progress with the generation, typically the temperatures, supply and return are reduced and enable easier and wider feed-in from sources like waste heat and renewable energy sources. So some of the technologies we're developing across our 5 projects also look into existing relatively high temperature networks. Other technologies are more focused on the low temperature. So let's say 4th and 5th generation. We cover the whole spectrum. Some challenges we or the district heating and cooling sector is for sure facing right now, and our policy paper tries to somewhat answer. Again, this is not meant as an exhaustive list. I'm just throwing ideas on the table. We have challenges for sure on the generation side. We have challenges on the consumption side. We have challenges on, let's say, transversal topics like the policy one. So let's look at the generation side. We know that large fossil fueled fired CHP systems are no more operating as they did in the past. We have regulations, both European and national, enhancing or forcing to increase the share of renewables and of waste heat in the grids. We have the need to increase, as said before, the feed-in from waste and renewables consequently, but those are not always programmable. They are at different temperatures. If we look at the consumption side, we need to shave peaks. We need to ensure correct return temperatures, which is often a pain for district heating utilities. We need to reduce the supply temperature if we consider that the existing buildings can be renovated and go towards low temperature emission systems. For new buildings, it's easier. Or we could think and are thinking of using higher temperature renewables to meet the requirements in terms of temperature of existing buildings without the need for replacing the systems. I'm thinking of higher temperature heat pumps. This will be probably a trade-off, but both is happening, both needs to happen. And I think this is one of the big questions in the sector. And now, looking at general other constraints, for sure, we have a big topic in interacting with the electricity grids. So call it sector coupling, call it flexibility, demand response, demand side management, all these keywords. Business models are always fitting to any presentation. You always need better business models and more tailored, let's say, on the recent innovations. And final challenge, connecting different grids to each other. Okay, that was just a short dive into the topic. Now we have asked three, let's say, skilled speakers to contribute to the main part of this workshop. The first one is Mr. Madis Laniste. He is a policy officer at DG Ener, and he has long-term experience on district heating and cooling. And for this reason, I would like Madis to leave the floor to you, and look forward to see your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco, and good morning, everyone. So I'm happy to provide a general outlook how we are seeing the development of the decarbonization in the district heating and cooling in coming years, and what is the current EU policy framework in this area. So first of all, there are two important pieces of legislation governing this area: the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Renewable Energy Directive. And briefly about the requirements, then what is contained in the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Renewable Energy Directive. So first of all, when we are addressing the member states, this builds on some kind of heritage, and in this area there has been long-standing requirement for the member states to develop plans how they are moving in the heating and cooling sector, and there has been for a long time the requirement to analyze the potential of the high efficiency cogeneration in the member states. But nowadays these plans are more comprehensive, covering many different aspects of heating and cooling, and this planning obligation will be there also in the future, and it requires member states to analyze the heating and cooling sector and propose the ways how the heating and cooling sector could develop in order to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels. The newest Energy Efficiency Directive complemented this planning obligations of the member states, and now there is obligation also addressing large municipalities across the EU. So those ones that have the population above 45,000, and in these plans there should be local heating and cooling plans, basically covering the same elements as the comprehensive heating and cooling assessments, but doing this on a local level and finding out what are the most important activities to ensure that local heating and cooling supply will reduce the role of fossil fuels in the future. So approximately 1,300 municipalities are there, and it covers more or less 1/3 of the EU's population. And the situation is in the member states varies a lot. So there are member states who have been doing quite good progress in this area, but there are member states where this is where we see good potential for development in the future. So the second important requirement of the Energy Efficiency Directive is the definition of the efficient district heating and cooling, and the obligation to develop the conversion plans for the district heating cooling systems when they are not fulfilling the requirements for the efficient district heating and cooling. So these pathway, what is put forward in the Energy Efficiency Directive, is describing how to decarbonize the district heating and cooling systems, and this is quite interlinked with the many other EU pieces of legislation governing the financing of this specific area and requirements, different requirements of other legislation that are interfering with the district heating and cooling, like energy performance of the buildings directive. So when it comes to the renewable energy directive, there is an overall target adopted for the district heating and cooling sector that has indicative nature how the role of the renewable energy should increase in the district heating and cooling. This is something to member states to consider in developing this particular area. And there is also a requirement for mandatory cooperation between the district heating and cooling system operators and electricity distribution system operators to ensure that the flexibility potential of the district heating and cooling systems is used for the purposes of balancing the electricity market and using this excess intermittent renewables in the heat generation in the future. So there should be more analysis made in this area by the member states and market operators to ensure that we are maximizing the output of the renewables in the energy markets, and there's good system integration in place. There are also requirements on the mandatory information disclosure by district heating and cooling systems contained in the Renewable Energy Directive, and also requirements how to ensure that the potential of waste heat and cold is maximized in district heating and cooling systems. So there should be a coordination framework established by the member states, and this coordination framework should help local actors to ensure that the potential of waste heat is not lost without any use. So this is a new requirement of the Renewable Energy Directive. What we are currently working with in the European Commission to ensure that these requirements are put in place and this has proper impact to the energy markets. First of all, we are developing the guidance documents, how to implement these various requirements arising from the new directives. The guidance documents are progressing well, and we estimate that in the field of in the area of or in this domain what is addressed by the Energy Efficiency Directive, the guidance document is ready approximately by the end of the summer and published, and what concerns the renewables, it will come after some months, and we have close collaboration with the member states how to ensure that they are paying enough attention to the new requirements and implementing these new requirements in their legislation, ensuring the transposition in time. So there is a lot of work directly addressed to the member states, what the Commission is doing at the moment. And finally, there is more work to be done on the financing initiatives to ensure that these new requirements, what are there, are having proper opportunities to ensure funding of these new activities that are there and will be there to ensure the decarbonization activity in the district heating and cooling. So, of course, part of the financing can come from the EU funds, but the most dominant share of the funding in implementing the energy efficiency activities should come from the private financing resources. So this is a huge challenge for the member states and as well as for the Commission to ensure that we have sufficient incentives for the private sector to actively contribute to the achievement of the energy efficiency targets. And we are doing a lot of work in this regard. So this is the core summary of our activities at the moment and current policy framework. Thank you for the attention at the moment. Thanks.
Thanks, Madis. Thanks also for keeping perfectly the timing. I forgot to explain the policy on questions. But someone already initiated the right policy. So it is basically through the Q&A function. You should have somewhere at the bottom of your screen that you can ask questions. And we will be answering probably later on, because I think some of the questions might be answered independently by the speeches, so we wait. Some of the questions, like this one about where the legal obligations to create local heating and cooling plants, where it does come from, we can probably answer via email, sending you the exact how do you say, name and number of the decree or of the, let's say, European regulation, then how it is translated in at the national level. This you have to find yourself. But please use the Q&A session, and we will read the questions out loud later on. So thanks again, Madis. The second expert on policy is Mr. Andras Takas. He is policy advisor at EUROHEAT and Power, as I was saying. So Andras, the floor is yours, and thank you to you as well for participating.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. And yeah, it was very interesting to listen to all of your projects. I will try to cover the policy aspects, as I am a policy advisor at EUROHEAT and Power, representing the sector, the district heating and cooling sector, where we have more than 17 active European projects and more than 150 members from 30 countries. Yeah, just to present you the current situation with district heating. In the district heating sector, we have 17,000 networks in Europe, which is a large number, serving 67 million EU consumers. And this covers the 13% of the EU's heat market. And recently, we published a study which mapped all the potential the heat potential what the district heating sector could use, and yeah, it proved that district heating could serve all the heat potential, the heat demand of Europe. You can see in this chart that the biggest potential lies in deep geothermal, but also in sewage water. And for example, from data centers as well, there's a huge potential. And we will need all of these energy sources because, according to our projections, the district heating sector will increase in the share of the heat market. By 2030, it could cover 20% of the European heat market. And by 2050, we foresee nearly the half of the share. Going to the policy part, I will try not to duplicate what Madis already covered, but I would like to highlight the importance of the local heating and cooling plants as well, because we see that this will be a huge push for our sector to develop further new networks. As described, it will have to be developed by municipalities with at least 45,000 citizens, and it will map where is the potential for heat, what could be used locally, and where is the demand, and how this could be interconnected. It's very promising, and as we saw on the map of MEDIS, Denmark and the Netherlands are doing already very well on national legislation on the local heating and cooling plans, but we have very good examples from Germany, where the draft local heating and cooling plan presents that the current heat market will shift from 62% of natural gas and 27% of district heating and some leftovers to 56% of district heating and 34% of heat pumps. So that's a huge shift, and this is led by new legislation in Germany, which makes by mid-2028 that's all of Germany's 11,000 municipalities to make a heat plan above 10,000 inhabitants. So that's a much lower threshold what the European Union set in the Energy Efficiency Directive. And we also see a very big benefit advantage in Germany that the federal government decided to support the planning cost of the heat plants up to 2028 by 500 million euros. So the developments of the plants will be also supported. Then in the Energy Efficiency Directive, we see that many waste heat sources are supported to be used. For example, the data center, waste heat from data center will have to be used if the data center exceeds the energy input 1 megawatt. And they have to make a technical assessment, economical assessment, if it's feasible or not. So that's already very positive, as we saw in our studies that the data center is a big potential for our sector to provide heat. And also other waste heat sources will be looked in. For example, thermal electricity generation installations. We will analyze also if their heat could be used. Industrial installations exceeding a certain number of energy inputs, also service facilities like the wastewater treatment plants, what I already mentioned, and the data centers as well. So in all of these different sectors, the waste heat potential will be looked into and mapped how they could be harnessed and increased the energy efficiency. And talking about waste heat so much, we see that the RED Renewable Energy Directive also recognizes waste heat and counts the waste heat towards renewable energy targets in all of the targets. Also for district heating and cooling, what was mentioned by MEDIS. Yes, then we have the efficient district heating and cooling definition, and here I just want to mention what from the industry perspective that we are really glad that we have this timeline of decarbonization, because we in the sector we have a clear decarbonization pathway, and we know we can set up better investment plans and in order to meet the definition. According to the definition, after 2030, we cannot add any fossil fuel energy sources to efficient district heating and cooling networks. So we can implement renewable and waste heat sources only after 2030. And district heating network which doesn't meet this definition will have to set up a plan how to meet it. So every 5 years after 2025, they will have to plan how to reach this target. Because it's not mandatory to comply with the requirements, but it is heavily encouraged as, for example, district heating operators which doesn't meet the efficient district heating and cooling definition will not receive state aid, for example. And also in the energy performance of buildings directive, we see that after 2030, all new buildings has to be zero emission buildings, and the zero emission buildings are limited to connect only to efficient district heating and cooling systems. So district heating operators which aim to have new consumers after 2030 will have to meet the definition. And we also see in the energy performance of buildings directive phase out of financial incentives for individual boilers, which will be also a push for clean heat solutions. And the last quick slide also to mention one more waste heat source. In the urban wastewater treatment directive, there was also introduced that wastewater plants serving a certain number of people will have to also look into the recovery and use of waste heat, also on site, but also via district heating and cooling networks. So they will have to generate renewable energy as much as they use it. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer the questions later.
Thank you, Andras. Also perfectly on time. Thank you to all the speakers because it's really running as planned, which is not often the case. In the meantime, the audience started to ask some questions. May I conclude, Andras, that the answer to, or let's say the at least partial answer to the first question, which is where do the legal obligations to create local heating and cooling plants come from, comes basically from the Energy Efficiency Directive?
Exactly. If I'm not mistaken, it's Article 25.
Okay, so thank you. In any case, we will be answering via email. So maybe, Andras, you can double check and then we send it by email. But so we already answered to the wider extent. Then we have a challenging, well, we have a question about we district. I think Carla will come back to Michael or Michael, I don't know, on this. And then we have a challenging question about the future share of the different sources in district heating networks. I would not answer it now. Let's leave it for the roundtable session, but I took note about that. Okay, we have now the last speech before we start with the roundtable, and this is where we finally unveil our policy paper, which we have written commonly, 4 out of these 5 projects. So basically Bio-FlexGen, HYPERGRYD, REWARDHeat, and WeDistrict. It's the first time we unveil it. It will be presented by Mr. Roberto Fedrizzi from Europe Research. He is also the main, let's say, author of it because he being part of REWARDHeat project, he was involved in the issuing of the first paper, and which was only, I think, REWARDHeat and REUSEHeat. Then we came into the game with all the other projects and contributed to this second version. Roberto, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marco, and good morning all. Just to make it clear, I'm not the main author. There was a collective work that we put into this, and I will talk about that in a second. Just to start with, on the work and on the presentation I will have this morning, it is not a policy paper. We wanted to call it position paper because we don't want to enter into policy with a research and innovation project, but again, somehow we want to give our perspective to policy and to directives that are there and regulating specifically the heating and cooling sector, and even more in the specific the district heating and cooling market. My presentation today will be about the Green Deal in general, but in particular, more on the heating and cooling sector, what concerns the heating and cooling sector. And again, I will focus on the directives that we have seen already today, at least in part, that somehow have an effect directly or indirectly on the heating and cooling, and then on the district heating sector, as I said some seconds ago. Again, in our work, we focused on the Fit for 55 package, but we also recently looked into the action plan on financing sustainable growth, which is again not part of the Fit for 55 package formally, but is part of all these measures that are somehow in place and continuously updated by the European Commission to put into place the European Green Deal. So, as I said initially, that is not my work. I'm the coordinator of the REWARDHeat project, so that is why I was asked to present. But actually, there was a collective work that we started in 2021 together with European Power and European Heat Pump Association, together with a range of experts that we had in the project. And again, the work started to understand the effect of the legislation, the actual legislation on the technologies we were developing, and to suggest some eventual improvements based on our experience, background, and the development, the elaboration that we were going through. More recently, also accounting for the fact that many of the directives I mentioned were recast recently over 23 and 24, we decided to join forces with sister projects and to analyze again such directives with a new eyes, to say. Going into directly into the topic of today, I will start from the from the Energy Efficiency Directive, which, as we heard about already several times today, is the main and the topmost directive that somehow drives all the rest of energy-related legislation. The objective of the directive is to incentivize or to introduce the concept of the energy first principle. And for the district heating and cooling sector, this implies that, again, energy efficiency needs to be taken into consideration before new generation is introduced in the networks. As we've seen already, the directive already included some years ago the definition of efficient district heating, but now it is even more strict and more clear when and how this efficiency should be implemented. I will not go through that because both Madis and Andras already spoke about it. Talking about say what we have seen as possible improvements and suggestions that we want to give, or we wanted to give to national adoptions of the directive, is that the energy efficiency does not take into consideration the energy efficiency that can be obtained in transformation and distribution in district heating. So if you reduce or reduce supply temperature or insulate pipelines, that is not considered by the directive as a relevant energy saving on the energy efficiency measure. On the other hand, this allows indeed to, technically speaking, reach really relevant energy savings. And on the other hand, reducing supply temperature on our side is the first step, is the preliminary step to adopting low temperature renewable and waste heat sources that you can find in cities and towns. Moreover, we have a clear pathway to efficient district heating, but we have different possible definitions of how to obtain an efficient district heating, and this could generate possible misunderstanding or disparities among member states. So we believe that here we need to convey with the European Commission and have guidance before national translation, national adoption. As Andras finally said 1 minute ago or a few minutes ago, the transition to energy efficient district heating is non-mandatory, which might lead to several utilities that are not willing to move forward in this direction due to the investment costs that are somehow related to that. I will enter into this later on because obviously, not obviously, but the European Commission implemented a number of technical and financial measures to move around this kind of limitation. Energy efficiency directive once more. Here we are we really welcome the fact that waste heat now is treated on the same level as renewable heat, because we envisage in our project that there is a huge potential for waste heat reuse in district heat. And again, we have spoken already this morning about data centers. They shall adopt heat recovery measures if it is demonstrated, unless it is demonstrated it is not possible. Here again, we see a huge potential in district heating once more. However, we recognize that, again, that is limited to large data centers. While, for example, all small-sized data centers that are distributed in the urban context somehow are not or remain somehow untouched by the directive. And this should be somehow taken into consideration in our opinion. Here we also see that this morning that the European Commission is working to guiding this process. We see that there is a really need to work on removing legal barriers to adopting waste heat in district heating. And foremost, it is needed that we work together, national-wise and district heating operators to standardized contractual provisions, standardized contracts and business models to integrate waste heat in district heating. If we talk about low temperature waste heat, we see significant implications for the role of the heat pumps and therefore the electrification in recovering waste heat and therefore district heating. Again, I don't want to enter too much into this because I have a slide later on to talk about this topic. To conclude on energy efficient directive, once more, we really much welcome the local heating and cooling plan, mandatory for cities with more than 45,000 inhabitants, which are the vast majority in Europe. Again, we believe that also smaller municipalities should be encouraged somehow and helped in this process. Where we see that there is major work to go through is the fact that the directive needs to be adopted at member state level, so at national level, but the implementation of the plan or the plans is a burden to the municipalities. So we see a challenge here in addressing all the diverse contexts that you can encounter in different urban, in different cities and towns. Again, with different situations that you can find in terms of renewable energy available, renewable energy sources available, and waste heat sources that you can find. Not to speak about different kind of climates and therefore loads, if we want to go technical. Therefore, again, we need to really put a major effort into support from the technical perspective, municipalities, and to work on capacity buildings on the one hand, and to allow municipalities to access information like spatial data in terms of loads distributions and waste heat and renewable energy distribution in the urban. Plus, we see that we need specific financial support in this direction, because indeed it's not going to be that municipalities can cover all this planning work. Therefore, they will need to support from third-party consultancies, private consultancies, and here we need specific funding that can be accessed directly by municipalities. Moving to the Renewable Energy Directive, we already heard about that, about this stuff by Andras. The directive objective is to set binding targets to renewable sources integration in the energy system. For the heating and cooling, you see, and you saw already the targets that you see that I mentioned in green. What we see is that those targets are, we need some more ambition, some higher ambition in those targets if we want to reach the binding overall 42% renewable energy penetration in the heating sector target by 2030. That is, mathematically speaking, indeed, we understand that the vast effort that is needed already to reach the 1% increase, and to increase again the rate to around 2 and 2.5%. That would be a huge effort, but at least national governments need to be made aware of the challenge and of the decision of the consequences of the decision they are going to take. Once, as we have already seen today, we need to go to work on cooperation frameworks to de-risk waste heat and renewable energy integration in district heating and cooling, specifically the waste heat, because again, waste heat is not there mandatorily, and again, one of the main challenges and fears by district heating operators is waste heat sources relocating. And once more, again, also here we need financing mechanisms that are there to accommodate energy prices for energy fluctuation. As I said before, we see a large potential for sector coupling, mainly when we talk about waste heat integration in district heating and cooling application, because again, via direct integration or by using heat pumps to integrate waste heat into district heating networks, district heating and cooling networks, we can somehow enable potential services to electricity grid. Here, obviously, we see challenges, which is we need to go for a more detailed and distributed management of the energy sources in the network. So here we need to foster digitalization and artificial intelligence utilization in district heating, which is not really common as of today. And again, we see the role of the thermal energy storage that district heating networks can implement in the energy system. Once more, as Madis Lannister mentioned, we need to implement cooperation frameworks between operators, district heating networks operators, and DSOs, TSOs on the electricity sector side. We also recently analyzed the EPBD because in the new recast there is more space for district heating. Again, EPBD is about renewable energy integration in the building stock, both newly built and retrofitted. So here we see an opening to district heating because we speak more, the directive speaks more about RES integration, both on-site and nearby available. So this opens quite a lot to connecting energy efficient district heating networks to buildings. And again, we see challenges in addressing energy performance certificates at national level to address and to reflect the integration of district heating and cooling networks in buildings on pair to local generators. And again, we welcome once more and we highlight the need to address a district approach to the building stock renovation, because this is the only way we see for maximizing district heating networks adoption, and on the one hand to plan the optimal utilization of waste and renewable heat, which is there already available in cities and towns. Moving a little faster to the emission trading directive, that is already a good effective tool to redistribute CO2 emission costs when we speak about ETS1. Hopefully the ETS2 addressing individual heating systems is going to be tackled or implemented soon. We see challenges here in the price cap set to 45 euro per ton of CO2 emitted by individual generators, as this might lead to an unfair competition with district heating, large district heating networks. We also see that if we want to have the directive being accepted widely, we need an easy implementation of the regulation, and again, we would foster using the emission certificates be used not only for covered investments, but also to reduce taxes and fees on renewable energy. And to conclude my presentation, we also, as I said, we also analyzed the action plan on financing sustainable growth, which is somehow a measure which is implemented next and complementarily to the directives, to reorient capital flows, private capital flows, and public to sustainable growth. One key element of the plan is the EU taxonomy that serves as a classification tool to classify if an investment and an implementation it can be classified as sustainable and green, and again establishes obligations when it comes to financing investments or facilitated investments. Indeed, one financial measure that has been widely used by large district heating companies is green bonds, for example. However, that is not a suitable financing solution for small size municipal operators, for example, that cannot afford to deliver a 50 million euros or larger green bond. Therefore, one possible solution that we see is blended finance, in which the public authorities guarantee, say, facilitated or low-level grants that somehow can de-risk the investment by private investors. Again, here we see a collaboration, a strong collaboration between public and private investors. Indeed, here, if we want to have this kind of mechanism to work properly, we need to go for a standardized regulatory framework. Again, district heating is local, but private investors work at international level. So they need to have always the same kind of framework implemented across Europe if we want to attract them in the sector. Plus, we need to have a national financing agency on the model of the Danish example, for example, which somehow manage and deliver this facilitated finance. And that is concluding my presentation, or the core of my presentation. We worked to this position paper. It is almost finished. We wanted to deliver it today together with the presentation, where we missed some final touches. So you will receive it together with the recording of the presentation today, or the presentations today. Just to summarize what I already said, and probably you already heard several times today. What we foster is really the energy efficiency first principle. However, also through lowering supply temperature. We really welcome waste heat treated as at the same level to renewable energy. And again, this we see through, for example, through using heat pumps to recover low temperature waste heat and renewables. We see a great potential for sector coupling, and we see how the district heating industry can somehow give a large, great added value to the overall energy system. We acknowledge the need for a greater ambition in the heating and cooling sector, and again, the need for planning heating, retrofit of buildings on the one hand, but energy plans at communal, district and communal level. Finally, to speak about financing, the financing level. Again, we highlighted in the paper, we highlight the fact that we need to have a fair level playing field across all the heating and cooling sectors. And again, there we need to go for de-risking instruments for attracting private investments into the sector itself. And that really finishes my presentation. Marco, sorry for being a bit too long compared to what I was allowed. Hopefully,
yeah, 5 minutes is acceptable. Don't worry. Many topics indeed, and that's part of the game. No, thanks, Roberto. First of all, I see we have still quite a high rate of participants. Just a few left. That's a good sign. Thank you for staying. Before we start with the roundtable, just a few notes I took during your presentation, Roberto. One is you mentioned the strong need for support to local authorities, local municipalities, for example, in local energy planning, as heating and cooling in particular, but I think that applies to energy planning in general. Fully agree. One of the tools the European Commission is putting in place, as many of us know, is the LIFE program, where they have a specific financing sub-program on support to local authorities in energy planning. So, of course, this is not enough, but we need much more, but this is a nice starting point. And then one question directly from my side. You mentioned that there is the district heating utilities, if I understood correctly, are not will not necessarily need to move to efficient district heating. I'm not sure I understood, because I know, and you showed it, there is a mandatory binding target set in the Renewable Energy Directive that rules the yearly increase of efficiency of networks. So can you explain this once more, please? Thank you.
Yeah, again, it is. Maybe that is a question also for EuroHeat and Power and for Andras. Again, it is not mandatory to change your network. Indeed, if you want to expand it and connect new customers, then you need to comply to the definition of renewable, say, energy efficient district heating. Therefore, these are strong, say, push towards moving in this direction. Indeed, new networks need to be following the directive. But again, the concern is for the old networks that are already there. And again, the concern is about the small networks below 5 megawatts heating capacity, which are not included, if I'm not mistaken, in the provision. Again, I will leave it on Andras because again, I'm more a technical person than.
Yes, Andras, please. I see you are visible again.
Yes, I can just confirm what Roberto said, that the efficient district heating and cooling definition is not mandatory to follow for district heating operators. But as we highlighted, other legislations are strongly encouraging the district heating operator to follow the efficient district heating and cooling definition. For example, if they want to connect new buildings after 2030, or if they want to receive state aid financial funding, that they will have to follow the efficient district heating and cooling definition. So I believe, as Roberto highlighted, that there is a risk that some district heating operator decides that it doesn't pay off to finance the transition and to meet the efficient district heating and cooling definition, but we hope that will be not the case, and that there will be enough finances to meet the efficient district heating and cooling definition, and there will be no one left behind, and we can completely decarbonize following the definition.
Okay, thank you. That's clear now. Thanks both. Fine. Time to move to the panel discussion or roundtable, if you will. I prepared a few questions for the speakers. As internally discussed, let's say priority goes to the three main speakers, but all of us, including the project presenters, are welcome to contribute, of course. Now, I had an order, but looking at this, one of the questions in the Q&A session, the one about, let's say, how we see the future, the distribution, or the how do you say in English? I don't remember. Let's say the distribution of the different heat sources in district energy sources in district heating networks. I thought we start with what I put as the third question, so it becomes number one. So let's listen to your opinions and visions, let's say, about where is the current policy driving us to, or where is it driving the district heating sector to, and why or how will, in your opinion, be the share of the different sources in the future? Let me add to the question of Björn. He mentions electricity from renewables, city waste, bioenergy, and waste heat. Personally, I agree these are for sure potential sources. Bioenergy depends what bio you have in mind, probably, especially when it comes to the, let's say, city environment where we do have constraints often with the quality of the air. But there are many biofuels, of course. I also would add the ambient temperature and ground source temperature in general as a source for heat pumps. Sort of thermal to some extent. Let's not forget hydrogen, which is not a source by itself, nor is district heating, by the way. It's a vector, but I see that there is some trend when it comes to at least medium-large users, as district heating utility is typically, to also consider hydrogen. Okay, that was my personal insight on that. I don't know. Can I leave it to you, Roberto, Andras, and Madis to decide who starts? The first to unmute, happy to listen to him. Otherwise, I will point on the speaker, first speaker. 3, 2, 1, Robert.
I will start, okay? Just because it is easier to be first, otherwise I will not know what to reply. Now, I see really difficult to reply to these questions, to this question. once more because local contexts are really different from North to South Europe and from large to small municipalities. I see district heating networks really varying differently in for example, in already established contexts where the district heating network covers most of the city, as compared to newly built networks in newly built city quarters, for example. In the second one, for example, through these heating and cooling plan activities, you can really decide what is the best options for integrating renewables and waste heat in the heating and cooling mix. On the other hand, this is much more difficult in networks that are already there and established for 20, 50 years, whatever it is. So here I see a more conventional approach to using concentrated solutions like what you said, biomass or biofuels, e-fuels, and solar thermal, for example, in concentrated generation plants. From the technical perspective, then I will leave it to the more policy oriented.
Yeah, exactly. Because let's say the main question I posed was rather about where are the current policies driving the district heating sector to. So I don't know, Andras or Madis, would you like to share your view on that?
Yes, I can come in on that. Where the policy is driving, it's a very good question. We see that the Fit for 55 package and all of the legislations lately adopted are they're a good step in the good direction. So that's very positive. We see the uptake of many district heating networks. For example, in Germany, the newly connected houses, around 20% of them are connected to district heating and cooling networks. So that's already a higher number in a country where district heating was not traditionally so strong. For example, the local heating and cooling plans will drive the planning, which is one of the best measures in the energy efficiency directive. But we also see a shortcoming how these plans will be developed and used, because the preparation of these local heating and cooling plans is mandatory, but their use and adaptation is not. So we just hope that the municipalities will have a strong support to develop good plans, and having a good plan, the municipality will also use it and adapt it in a correct way. And to answer also Björn's question, indeed, across Europe, we have so many different sources, and district heating is so flexible solution. We can use so many different sources. For example, in Munich, there will be 90% geothermal and 10% rest, I believe, waste incineration, and they have a plan with hydrogen. So Munich is sitting on geothermal, while we see that the largest wastewater treatment plant, a large-scale heat pump, is being built in Vienna, in Austria. So they will have a lot of waste heat from that source. Or, for example, Helsinki in Espoo, 40% of the district heating network they plan to have from data center waste heat, which is also amazing. So it's hard to say that on European level what will be the share, but we see that there are huge plans to use already existing and locally available renewable and waste heat sources.
Thanks, Andras. Clear. Madis, any opinions on that?
Well, yeah, brief reactions from my side as well. So what we see after the adoption of the new directives is that the industry is much more interested about the alternatives to the current fossil fuel consumption patterns, and the district heating sector representatives are actively looking for alternative supply options for the district heating systems. That's for sure, and that's the change what we are witnessing on the ground on this area. So when it comes to the potential heat sources in the district heating systems, one interesting bit of information that I would highlight is that yeah, the role of bioenergy is quite significant in the supply of renewable energy in the heating and cooling at the moment. But in the longer term, it seems that this potential of the bioenergy is already quite high, and there isn't additional growth coming from the bioenergy in the future. So the most important growth areas for the decarbonization of the heating and cooling systems are actually the heat pumps and also the energy storage systems that could be there for the supply of heat in the district heating systems. So currently, yeah, that's what and more specific, I can say that yeah, yesterday I had a meeting with the Finnish district heating sector representatives, and they were saying that at the moment that the share of the bioenergy could stabilize at the level of somewhere 10-15% of the total energy supply through the district heating systems, and the biggest chunk of the growth will come from the electrification of the district heating systems. So that's interesting fact to consider.
Yeah, and thank you also for mentioning thermal energy storage. Indeed, that has been missing a bit so far as a keyword. Of course, this is something which in the world of district heating is very, very relevant and will be more relevant as electrification increases, as renewable electricity share in the grid increases due to non-programmable issues. Okay, there is one question which I'm not sure we can answer now, perhaps by email, but maybe Andras, in your role, you have some insight. The question is there any good example of scope of work for local heating and cooling plan? In particular, what should it include? So I was wondering, do you, but not necessarily Andras, maybe also Roberto or Madis from his perspective have come across some good or best practice, or at least good practice in energy planning. I honestly cannot think of a particularly good practice I know, but maybe you do. If you do, great. Otherwise, you don't have to answer. We will try to reply via email otherwise.
Yes, we did not look into specific details of member state legislations on this, but I saw that also in Madis's presentation there was a map from energy cities, which mapped all of the national legislations in all different member states for what they do on local heating and cooling plants currently, and what is the shortcoming, what they still need to improve. So I will share that link to the question, and I believe that will answer it.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have 7 more minutes, so I think we will go through at least a second question, which is, for me, is still the question. Of course, one of the main questions is this issue we just discussed about the different sources in the future in district heating networks. For me, the other big question is what I mentioned also in the introduction, namely the role of buildings and related to the requested supply temperature. We know that existing buildings, especially, let's say in general, all buildings are equipped with high temperature emission systems, typically radiators. And we know that this is not easy to couple with when it comes to renewables and waste heat. Let's just think of waste heat from data centers. Roberto mentioned several times, it's very low, exergy low, very low temperature. So I think some years ago, the trend, at least in the conferences, was to look at low temperature emission systems, which means heavy refurbishment, not always easy, or I would say in most of the cases quite hard, although possible, but that requires to be the tenants, the inhabitants, to leave the apartment for a while, because you need to install radiant floors, or I don't know, radiant walls in offices, or radiant ceiling, whatever it is. But let's say it's quite a deep refurbishment. Now, more recently, I mean, it's not recent, but that has been said several times, we have this big trend towards electrification. And as the electrification, probably also in the definition phase, how it will be electricity actually used in buildings for heating and cooling, for heating especially. Some even talk about electric resistances in case we have a lot of excess renewable electricity. But other way would be heat pumps. Madis mentioned this as one of the key technologies. We are seeing that heat pumps, new developments, can reach higher temperatures. We're not yet there, I think. But my question is, where do you think we are in this moment? If you had to bet, in the future, it will be mainly deep renovation, going to low temperature emission systems, coupled to fourth generation heating, district heating, or fifth even, or it will be more keeping relatively high medium temperature in the networks, because we have these nice high temperature heat pumps which can increase the level. Where do you think we will be in 2050? I would change the order, perhaps reverse it. Can I start with you, Madis?
Well, yeah, it's a good technical question. What are the preferences by district heating system operators, and how the renovation of the buildings will proceed? And yeah, this renovation pace across the EU member states is not similar, but there are countries who have been progressing more, and if we can somehow estimate the situation, is that some of the buildings are ready to use lower temperatures after small systems redesigns in the building level, and this could be utilized to this approach that we changed the system temperature levels can be imagined in some of the district heating systems, but it's still not that well foreseeable process across the member states, and we hope that particularly the local district heating conversion plans will be more specific in this regard. What are the optimal system temperature levels in the district heating systems in coming years, and how this change could take place? But most importantly, the renovation has to progress in the buildings to go down with the temperature levels. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thanks to you. Andras.
Yes, I have a very interesting number I want to throw up. One of our members, Grantfoss, estimated that if all district heating networks would decrease the temperature to 70 degrees Celsius, then there would be free heat available for 800,000 households. So that's a huge number. Yeah, we are looking forward to this renovation wave, and to decrease the temperatures, the heating temperatures in the district heating networks, because it will allow our sector to implement more waste heat and more renewable energies, which are usually available in lower temperatures. For example, Marco, you mentioned data centers that the temperature is very low, from 23 up to 30. It depends if it's water cooled or air cooled. But yeah, it's a huge difference if we don't have to warm it up to 120, but only 60, 70. So yeah, we are looking forward to the renovation, and be more efficient.
Okay, so renovation still in the center. Roberto?
Yeah, quickly to conclude, yeah, on my side, I would say that if there is a technology that allows to bring renewables to buildings, even if they are not renovated, this is really district heating. So on the one hand, retrofitting buildings is not needed to district heating, strictly speaking. However, as we all said, and I copy Madis and Andras, and also what you said, we need to foster the energy efficiency first principle. So having better retrofitted buildings or better energy efficient buildings will help on the one hand to make efficiency and free generation. On the other hand, to facilitate integration of renewables and waste it into district heating, into the district heating sector. So we need retrofit of buildings as a complementary measure to renewing district heatings. And again, this has to do with low temperature distribution distribution terminals, but also with envelopes, I would say, in general. What I would say, however, is that just to conclude, is that what we see in demonstration projects is that it is not needed actually that you feed substation with 80 degrees, even in to cover thermal loads in buildings, even if they are old and energy inefficient. Therefore, here I wanted to also open a new topic that we didn't touch today, which is the correct management of the network and the active management of the network and of the substations in existing district heating networks. Here we see large potential in making efficiency and reducing losses and reducing the supply temperature in general in district heating, also by doing nothing else than managing better the substation and obviously implementing contractual provisions with the final user, which are different from simply selling thermal energy as a commodity at 80 degrees because it was used to do so from the beginning of the network operations.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Thank you, Roberto. Okay, very interesting for me. For me, this is still a very, very hot topic, so good to listen to different opinions. We are way ahead of schedule. Many thanks for our outstanding program. How much risk the investment on data centers? Okay, now I have been asked to close here, so we will take note of the remaining questions. Roland, I see you raised your hand. We don't have time to listen to the question voice, but may I ask somebody, I don't know how to do it, to drop my email address on the chat visible to all the participants. Carola, you know my email address by heart. Yes. So you're welcome to send me a message. I will forward it to those who better can answer. Yes, Stockholm, yes, indeed. I'm not saying these high temperature heat pumps are fully new, but let's say they are being industrialized more and more. So they are becoming now an option on the table, let's say, or on the market. That's it. I'm done. I would like to thank everybody very much. You have been quite constant in waiting until the end. We have missed some attendees over the last 15 minutes, but that's part of the game. I hope it was interesting and look forward to your questions via email or in other forms. Thanks to all the speakers, especially, of course. See you soon.
Thanks, Marco.
Thanks all. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.